The game is over, and now it's time to break down another showdown for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes.
On 1st and 10, handoff working right. Mosey cuts it back between the tackles, angling left down to the 15, the 10, 5. That's going to be a touchdown for Nebraska. That is Mekhi Nelson, the redshirt freshman, taking it the distance. And the Huskers got the ball first. They score first. So 1st and goal for Nebraska. Final 2.5 minutes of this first quarter in Vegas. They bring a man in motion. Lateef tosses it on the end around, trying to get that right edge. Nebraska's got 6. Ja'Cory Barney Jr. Touchdown, Corn Huskers. 3rd and goal from the 20. Dampier takes a shot for the end zone. And how did he do that? Caught. Touchdown, Utah. J.J. Buchanan, the Vegas native, has scored 6. Parker motions out, empty for the dual threat quarterback. He's running between the tackles, straight into that south end zone. Touchdown, Devin Dampier. His second, he's in. Touchdown, Utah, Nakari Rogers. Utah go for it on 4th and 1. Dampier motions out. Parker was going to take the snap. Now Dampier shifts back to the center spot. 2 tight ends on the right side. Parker in motion. Dampier fakes the give, runs straight ahead. Dives for the goal line. Did he get in? Waiting for a signal. Touchdown, Utah. 1st and 10, Huskers at the 36 of Utah. Nebraska down 24 with 11 minutes to go. Lateef back to throw. Pressure coming. Dodges the blitz. Winds up. He's taking a shot for the 10-yard line in double coverage. And it's intercepted. Utah's Rock Caldwell with the snag. Nebraska down 24 with 11 minutes to go. Lateef back to throw. Pressure coming. Dodges the blitz. Winds up. He's taking a shot for the 10-yard line in double coverage. And it's intercepted. Utah's Rock Caldwell. Dampier back to throw on 3rd down. To the left side. Bentley breaks the tackle at the 5. And he gets in again. Dallin Bentley, the senior tight end. 2nd touchdown today.
This is the Ute Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on into the Ute Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles joining me one final time this season, my friend, to break down another Utah victory. This one 44-22 in the Las Vegas Bowl over Nebraska. Morgan Scalley's first game as head coach. Of course, the biggest storyline coming into this one. And I don't know about you, Alex, but I thought it was a pretty nice way for Coach Scalley to make his debut.
Absolutely. Phenomenal way to make your debut. Not only because obviously you get out and you go and you get the win, but after that first quarter, it looked like Nebraska and that offense were going to have a good night running the ball against this Utah defense. But adjustments were made. In between quarters. They were made at the halftime break, and Utah's defense ended up clamping down Nebraska. Utah's offense looked phenomenal, and again, just a massive and a great way for Morgan Scalley to start off his head coaching tenure as the head coach of the University of Utah as he goes 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not to bring up bad memories, but if you remember, Utah finished the season very poorly on defense, allowing, almost 800 rushing yards to Kansas State and Kansas across their final 2 games. And you're right, it definitely looked that way. Nebraska, had 75 rushing yards on their first touchdown drive of the game. And it felt like nothing had been fixed. But really since then, I mean, after that first drive, the defense really clamped down. Again, Nebraska only finished with 22 points, so that's a very good defensive performance. All in all, 161 yards on the ground, 182 through the air for Nebraska. So not able to move the ball very much. And, for a defensive guy making his debut as head coach, I thought it went really well, especially considering how poorly, again, those final 2 regular season games were. The question was, what was wrong and what could Morgan Scalley do to fix it? Today, in that first drive, it seemed like guys were just, again, not in the right spots, not playing gap sound football. And I don't know what adjustments were made, but it clearly worked, because after that first drive, you see guys in the right place. You see guys still getting pushed around a little bit. I mean, it definitely wasn't mistake-free football, but you're not seeing those 60-yard touchdown runs given up.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to find down the exact number breakdown for the quarters because, again, I thought Nebraska started off really well running the ball against Utah in that first quarter. Second quarter, they did a lot better. I think in the third quarter, man, they only held them to they put up the stat on the TV, and there was 17 yards of offense from Nebraska in that third quarter alone. And then obviously in the fourth quarter, you pull some of the starters, some of the young guys get out there, they start moving the ball a little bit better. But I mean, just overall, all in all, man, I think the biggest thing for me, we knew how good this offense was. We know how great this offense is. Devin Dampier, phenomenal performance. But I think the thing that I was most looking at was how was the defense going to look after, not being able to count on Logan Fano coming into this game, not being able to count on John Henry Daly coming into this game. How are they going to look at stopping the run? As you mentioned it against Kansas State, it didn't look really well. And in the first quarter, it looked like we're trending in that same direction. But credit goes to Morgan Scalley. Credit goes to guys like Lewis Powell for making adjustments, the necessary adjustments needed to stop Nebraska and really put that true freshman quarterback under some pressure. He did not look comfortable at all after that second quarter, and they were in his face all night.
Yeah, so Nebraska had 157 total yards of offense in that first quarter, 157 total yards. And they finished the game with 343. So they basically doubled, or they had half of their total production in the first quarter alone. So really after that first quarter is when Utah's defense stepped up. And yes, the defense started playing better. But Alex, I think the bigger thing was the offense was phenomenal again tonight. And this was the story for Utah all season. They won a majority of their games, scoring over 40 points and allowing less than 20 to the other team. And that's basically what we saw tonight. Nebraska scoring a garbage time touchdown. Devin Dampier had a phenomenal game today. They were talking about all of the Las Vegas Bowl MVPs that they've had, talking about Kellen Moore and guys like that. And then they said Devin Dampier might have just had the best game of any Las Vegas Bowl MVP, 310 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. And then he added 148 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns rushing. Great game from Dampier, his best game as a Ute. And it makes me wonder if maybe Kyle Whittingham was telling the truth all season long that Dampier was banged up and that really limited how he could play, because this was by far the best version of Devin Dampier that we've ever seen.
Absolutely. I think that was probably my first thought too. After a couple drives and probably after Utah went up 30 or 31, I thought to myself, wow, if this is how Devin Dampier looks with a healthy ankle, it's a much different Devin Dampier than what we saw right in the early parts of the season where he was clearly hobbled. He wasn't at 100%. He finishes the night with 310, 2 touchdowns, but even more so, 148 yards on the ground, man, 19 carries, the 3 touchdowns rushing for Devin Dampier. He's phenomenal. By far the best we've seen Devin Dampier, I think, in a Utah jersey. Obviously his best performance of the season. And then of course, finishing off with 5 total touchdowns, man. Absolutely love to see it from Devin Dampier. He is by far the MVP of this game.
And he almost broke away for a long one there in the fourth quarter. He got tripped up. Good job by him breaking the tackle. And he wasn't quite fast enough to run away from the defense after he had to break that tackle, but really just solid all-around performance. I was wondering what the split was going to look like with Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin. Bird did not have a passing attempt. He did have 5 carries for 10 yards. So we didn't quite see the explosiveness that he had been showing all year, but it was really the Devin Dampier show. And, that begs the question now of, was this his last game as a Ute? And what does that mean? Of course, with the portal opening in just 2 days, Jason Beck still has not been announced as the offensive coordinator at Michigan. So I wonder if maybe Kyle Whittingham was just waiting for this game to be over with. Or maybe Utah's making a last-second push to keep him. Nobody really knows the answer there. But if Jason Beck does go to Michigan, they've already got Bryce Underwood, and maybe he could enter the portal. But as of right now, Michigan is not looking for a starting quarterback. So, of course, Devin Dampier could stay here with the Utes, or he could go somewhere else. Arizona State has been a possibility that has been brought up. I don't know. It's about to get real interesting. Regardless, though, I think this is a great way for Devin Dampier to end the season.
Absolutely. Phenomenal way for him to end the season. Obviously put out some really good tape for whatever he does decide to do. I thought it was interesting because yesterday they had the luncheon press conference type deal where Morgan Scalley, Lander Barr, and Devin Dampier all sat in front of the media. And he said he was happy to be at Utah. He was extremely happy with everything, with the way everything went at Utah. And it didn't seem like he was going He made it sound like he was happy to stay and happy to be here, right? Happy to be at Utah. But then today on the broadcast, right, the sideline reporter says she pulled Devin Dampier aside. He says he didn't say yes or no. He's like, just focus on the game. And so that kind of, again, opens up the door and opens up the question of what's going to happen to Devin Dampier. Yesterday, after hearing his comments, I thought maybe, Utah would probably have a good chance of keeping him at Utah. But after hearing that sideline report, it seems a little bit more wishy-washy than it was yesterday.
Yeah, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I do want to touch on the Kyle Whittingham stuff because we haven't done, obviously, a post-game show since then. And I want to give flowers to Morgan Scalley because of the crazy whirlwind that this has been for him. This was not supposed to be his first coaching experience.
Yeah.
If you remember, he was not scheduled to take over until January 6th. That's when he was supposed to have his press conference. And then that's when Kyle Whittingham had stepped down, but he was still an advisor or whatever with the team. But then he goes to Michigan. Now Morgan Scalley all of a sudden is coaching this game, taking on more duties than he initially had thought. He only had a few days really to prepare for being a head coach rather than the defensive coordinator for this game. So for him to do this while all of that was happening, I think it's a tremendous job by him. And I hope it's a good sign of things to come for Morgan Scalley as the head coach of Utah, because to be honest, we don't know how he can coach. And this was a very good first game, right? And you hope that that continues to build. It's not going to be easy next year. It's not. But I'm encouraged.
And I think a lot of Utah fans should be encouraged with what they saw today from Morgan Scalley and this Utah team. I think a lot of it is going to have to obviously go into player retention and making sure that you keep the pieces that you have now on this team, and of course being able to add through the transfer portal some of the spots where I think this team can improve. But most importantly, right, keeping guys like Devin Dampier, keeping guys like Wayshawn Parker, keeping guys like JJ Buchanan, who I thought played phenomenal tonight, right? Keeping a lot of that piece. It's going to come down to player retention, right? How does Morgan Scalley end up recruiting his own guys? But I think the thing that stood out to me, as far as the coaching of it all goes, I think what stood out to me was the way that the clock was managed at the end of the second quarter. Utah got the ball back with over 2 minutes left, right? I don't think they got the ball back until even before the 2 minute warning or the 2 minute timeout, and then able to manage the clock well. They blooded out and scored a touchdown with 20 seconds to go, and I thought that was really phenomenal clock management from a guy who's being coaching his first ever game as a head coach.
Yeah, and then of course you get the 2-for-1, right? Because they score at the end of the second quarter, and then they get the ball back to begin the second half, and they score on that first drive as well. So really good stuff, man. Really, really good stuff. And that's when you talk about the different duties of a head coach versus just being a defensive coordinator, and that is a big change. You see guys all across college football. Deion Sanders still doesn't know how to manage his timeouts, right? So it's interesting stuff. And of course, it is just a bowl game, and bowl games matter less and less. But this was a fun audition for Morgan Scalley. And I mean, I shouldn't call it an audition because he has the job. The job is his. It's wrapped up. But it was a nice little taste, I guess, of the Morgan Scalley-led Utah team. So as far as expectations for next year, I think it's a little too early to kind of set anything. I think we'll have to see what happens with the coordinators and who ends up leaving the portal. But man, if I were a Utah player on this team who's on the fence of like, why should I stay? Or, maybe I should go somewhere else. Yeah. I would feel really encouraged with this. And I think that was the vibe that this team played with. I think guys like Lander Barton wanted to show up for their guy that they've been playing for their entire career. Right. So that speaks to Morgan Scalley's ability as the player coach, and the guys love him.
Yeah. I think this is a great game for guys who are on the fence to try to use them try to use this game as a platform of being able to convince them to stay and being able to convince them to come back, because you go and you make those adjustments on the defensive side of the ball, and the defense looks so much better through the second and third quarter. You continue to dominate the way that you do on offense. Devin Dampier again looked phenomenal, probably his best game in a Utah jersey. And you use that as a little bit of a selling point, a little bit as a recruiting your own guys point, and saying, hey, look at what we did this season. Last year we went 5-7. Last year we missed a bowl game. It was a super disappointing year to start Big 12, start our journey in the Big 12. But you bounce back nicely with an 11-2 season. this is what we can build. Let's keep you here and make sure that we have some unfinished business type deal, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. Want to extend out to everybody watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. Let us know your thoughts on this game. Let us know your thoughts on Morgan Scalley's first game as the head coach of the University of Utah. Let us know your predictions on what's going to happen with the portal and the coaching hires. Want to get into all that. Would love to get some listener reaction, especially with this being the last Ute post-game show of the year. Everybody, please chime in because we got a lot to talk about, and it's about to get crazy. And man, I still can't believe that Whittingham is at Michigan. That feels weird to talk about, right? And it feels weird to kind of just gloss over that. And then, of course, watching both games at once, they had the Michigan-Texas game, and it shows Whit up there in the press box with the Michigan hat and Michigan jersey or Michigan sweater. And it just doesn't feel real, but it is real. Morgan Scalley is Utah's head coach now, and it's a new world for college football. So anybody watching, please let us know your thoughts on everything, really.
It's a new world for college football. It's a new world for Utah specifically, man. After 21 years, you're moving on into a new different direction. I said it last week with Jake Hatch on College Football Saturday. On one hand, I'm extremely happy for Kyle Whittingham. I think if there's a coach in college football that goes and deserves an opportunity to truly fight for a national championship, it's Kyle Whittingham. It's unfortunate that I think he had to leave somewhere to go do that, but I am happy for him and that opportunity he gets. But at the same time, like, what's going to happen in the next couple of days that can either really, really shake up what Utah looks like next season, or can leave Utah in a good spot to compete for the Big 12 championship next year.
JV is pissed chiming in on YouTube. That's his handle. That's the handle. I'm just reading that. Great win. Dampier looked amazing. Stay together, boys. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. I love it. And this comes with the news. John Henry Daly has already entered his name into the transfer portal. Well, he says he's going to, right? You can't technically until Friday, but yeah, Dampier had his best game as a Ute. So now we will see who chooses to stay, who chooses to go. I thought it was nice tonight, some of the defensive efforts we saw from guys like Lance Holtzclaw. He had that huge sack, big hit on Latouf, and that's kind of what you're going to see next year with no Logan Fano, maybe no John Henry Daly. Maybe he comes back. Who knows? But you're always going to get defensive linemen coming out of Utah. Even if some of these guys leave and go to Michigan, I think that Utah has really turned themselves into one of these programs that can churn out defensive ends and defensive linemen that rack up the sacks. And I think next year Holtzclaw is going to be one of those guys kind of taking the mantle. It is interesting because Logan Fano, of course, the leadership, he's been here for so long. It's going to be weird to not see him out there. Leonard Barton as well. I know he's an off-ball guy, but he's been a staple of this Utah team for the past several years. So changing to the guard, it seems, at a good time, I guess, with the coaching changes as well. But you're always going to get guys stepping up, and maybe you bring in new names through the transfer portal, but that's not really been Utah's thing. I know they got a lot of their offensive pieces on the transfer portal, but this defense kind of seems like it's always been homegrown, right?
Yeah. They've always had players come in and step up, right? Even before Lander, you had Kareni Reed, the defensive backfield, right? There was always NFL caliber guys. Just a couple years ago, right? Zamiah Vaughn, and then you go before that, Clark Phillips, Jalen Johnson. Like, there's always somebody coming up, and that's just a credit to Utah and what they're able to do recruiting wise. It's always been finding the guys that are maybe under recruited and undervalued. Not necessarily the biggest name as far as star ratings, right? I think Utah's bread and butter has always been and probably will continue to be to find the 2 and 3 stars that are under recruited and bring them in and really develop them into phenomenal football players. But that doesn't change that Utah, I think, now has an opportunity again to go out into the transfer portal this offseason, depending on how everything falls out, right? If you're able to retain a large majority of the core of offense that you have now, and the core of defense that you have now, bring in some additional players from the transfer portal who can come in and really compete for a starting position and have some college football experience. And this Utah team the sky's the ceiling, man, for this team. If they're able to accomplish that, but again, it starts with player retention and what happens in the coming days, right? With all the coaching news that we are anticipating on seeing.
Yeah, I will be really interested to see, who all ends up staying, because you mentioned what Utah's been able to do with a lot of the 2 and 3 star guys they get. Not only are they, 2 and 3 star prospects, but these are local guys. Like, so many of Utah's best players over the Kyle Whittingham era have been local guys.
Yeah.
And I am interested to see how much of that stays the same with Morgan Scalley. I wouldn't really expect it to change, right? But I do wonder how, I guess, Morgan Scalley will be as compared to Kyle Whittingham, thinking of the hires that Kyle Whittingham had to make for his staff. And he always stuck close to his network, his guys, his connections through either BYU or Utah. And I wonder if Morgan Scalley is going to be a little more outgoing. Not to discredit Kyle Whittingham, because obviously he made it work so well over 21 years, but you get the vibe that Morgan Scalley is definitely more of the coaching conference guy and making connections and, hey, nice to meet you. And, I'd love to get to know you better. Similar to Kalani Sitake down in Provo. Like, you hear every pregame press conference for BYU, and Kalani's always like, oh yeah, great friends with the other team's coach. We go back, we had dinner a couple times. Like, that definitely seems more up Morgan Scalley's alley. And I'm curious to see how much that will extend to, like, recruiting and stuff and getting to know other parts of the country that Utah hasn't really traditionally recruited in.
Absolutely. And, I think at first, right, we are anticipating some coaching changes. We'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of days and what news comes out. But I think that in the case that some coaches do move on, some coaches do end up following Kyle Whittingham to the University of Michigan, I think probably at first you might see some familiar names, maybe some guys that are closer to Morgan Scalley and in that network. But then as the career develops and as that career continues, you'll probably see a little bit more branching out. But yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if at first it's more local guys as far as recruiting goes, as far as bringing in new coaches. But then as time goes on, you allow those branches to grow in your network.
Utah did break the single season record for rushing.
Massive.
For those of you that don't know, that is a huge accomplishment for, Utah has always been run it down their throat team. So to break their school record, I'm trying to find the exact number. I think it was 3,463.
I think so. Yeah.
Trying to find the graphic and the font. 3,263. There it is. And of course, that was just the record when that was the number when they broke it, and then they added more yardage on top of that. So not quite sure what the official number is, but this, that was a number that they were chasing towards the end of the year. You heard that several times brought up. Guys like Wayshawn Parker they mentioned how much it would mean to break that number, because this, again, is a program that has always been the tough blue collar, we're not going to throw the dang football type of team, right? So yeah. to have the best rushing season in school history, and they also broke the record for most rushing touchdowns as well. It's been a success for Jason Beck, and I hope he stays, obviously, because offense is fun to watch. It's fun to watch teams put up points. And if Morgan Scalley has to replace his offensive coordinator that he helped pick out, that's going to suck, having to find two new coordinators, offense and defense in one offseason. It's not an ideal way to start your coaching career, but again, if Jason Beck does go to Michigan, he's earned the opportunity, man, because putting this product out for Utah's offense that they have shown this year and scoring as much as they did, I think I am a little shocked that it worked this well. There were a few games where I was like, okay, it's understandable that you beat up whoever to start the year, but when you're going through conference play, consistently dominating teams, scoring 40 or 50 points a game, pretty unheard of in Salt Lake City. So yeah, Jason Beck has done a great job.
I think more importantly too, you go back to last season, man, and this is a team. I mean, what Utah football, from as far as I can remember and as far back as I can remember, right, in following the local sports here in the state of Utah, Utah's always been a bruising run first team. And they've always been successful in finding rushing touchdowns. But even last season, man, in a year where the offense really struggled, I think they only had 8 rushing touchdowns all season. So to go from 8 rushing touchdowns to the number that you see now, breaking a school record in not only rushing yards, but in rushing touchdowns for a single season, massive credit to Jason Beck.
Over 40 on the year, yeah.
Huge accomplishment from the offensive coordinator coming over from New Mexico, bringing in his ideals, but completely re-energizing and revitalizing this Utah offense that desperately needed it after 2 seasons where things didn't go Utah's way offensively. The offense last year obviously trending down from where we're used to seeing this Utah offense be, and then this season coming in and breaking again that rushing record for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in a single season. Massive credit to Jason Beck.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did it one more time to wrap up the season, because it sounds like with everything that's been going on, everybody could have been massively distracted. And if Jason Beck really is going to Michigan, he easily could have just mailed this game in. But it really feels like he was dialed in for this one right from the get-go. I mean, the offense really did not struggle. I think, trying to find punting numbers, I think Utah only had to punt 3 times. Sorry, for Phillips, 3 punts. But no turnovers, clean day. Yeah, just another impressive performance.
And then, of course, like you mentioned, they could have mailed it in, but instead they come out. They have 300 yards in the first half alone on offense. A lot of those coming through the air with Devin Dampier, 90 on the ground, and then in the second half, you put up another 235 yards. Could have easily, like you said, because of the distractions, because of the decision that Jason Beck now has to make on his future, they could have rolled around and mailed it in and not really cared about this game. But I think that there was a lot of reasons to be fired up and a lot of reasons to be motivated for Utah because of the potential departure of Jason Beck, because of obviously it is Morgan Scalley's first game as head coach, because they wanted to finish the season strong. You mentioned it. They talked about the rushing record earlier in press conferences. They wanted to get to that number. They did. And so there was still a lot to play for Utah. And then, of course, not winning a bowl game since 2017. There was still a lot to play for Utah. And it was great to see that Morgan Scalley had these guys fired up to come out and play.
Well, the last Las Vegas Bowl they played in, they lost to Northwestern.
14-7, man.
That was their last bowl appearance. So
yeah,
it's nice to kind of rectify that, right?
Yes. You get another shot at the Las Vegas Bowl against, again, another Big Ten opponent. A Big Ten opponent who I think on paper is better than Nebraska, than Northwestern, right? And as yes, a little bit of a bigger brand than Northwestern. So a good team to play against, and a good opportunity to again get the 11 wins and further your brand as the University of Utah. And I think they showed up well against Nebraska.
Yeah, man. And then just put a bow on the season, wrap it up, and get ready for
what's to come.
Hurricane that is about to come. We got to take a break. We are live online on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, on KSLSports.com. We are also on the radio, so we got to fit in some quick radio breaks. We will be back real quick in about 3 minutes. While we're gone, head to the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on this game. Let us know your thoughts on Devin Dampier. Was that his best game as a Ute? Let us know your thoughts on Jason Beck, on Kyle Whittingham leaving, all that stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good show. More to come later. We're going to get to the podium and hear from Morgan Scalley following this victory. It will be a little delayed because of the festivities, but stay tuned. We are going to carry that. So stick with us. It is the Ute Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
is the Ute Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Ute Postgame Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me to break this one down, break it down one more time. Alex, and I think it was a phenomenal win for Utah to kind of wrap up this 2025 season, a season in which Utah has kind of announced that they are back, right? After their first year in the Big 12 last year, finishing 5-7, there were a lot of questions about Utah football, about Kyle Whittingham, about all this, all that. Kyle Whittingham did not want to leave on a bad note. He wanted to get this train back on the track, and they did. And I know he's no longer with the team. He has left for, a different job, yada, yada. But ultimately, I think it's a good way to end the year and prove that Utah really is legit and that the last couple of years were kind of fluky with injuries and everything else going on. I think Utah has proved that when they're on their game, they can be top contenders in the Big 12, and that's exactly what they're wanting to do. Now we will see how different things are under Morgan Scalley and how much that changes things, but that at the very least is the expectation that has been set.
Absolutely. And I think this year was probably the most important thing for Utah, is to be able to come back and establish yourself as a contender, to be able to come back and bounce back after a 5-7 season. As Kyle Whittingham has said before, right the ship and be able to put yourself in a good spot, right, heading into the future. Winning changes a lot, man. And when you're winning 11 games a season, that bodes well for recruiting, that bodes well for the program, that bodes well for the coaching staff. When you go off and you win 11 games and to the fashion of which you did it, you have one of the best rushing attacks in the entire country. I think you only finished behind Navy. We'll see where the updated numbers are after this game, but heading into bowl season, right, Utah had the second best rushing attack in the entire country, and to be able to re-energize and reinvent the offense the way that you did, I think it sends a clear message to the country. It sends a clear message to the Big 12, and it says, hey, Utah football is here to compete.
Very loud truck driving by. Yes, and we got some great performances to end the season, right? Obviously, you got to mention Devin Dampier again. 310 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 148 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, so 5 total touchdowns for Devin Dampier. But then you also had Dallin Bentley coming in, giving his best game of the year, 6 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown. He was very emotional on the sideline. Obviously, he's a senior, so probably his last football game ever, which is crazy to think about, but what a way to go out, right? And then J.J. Buchanan, big catch Buchanan, 4 catches, 76 yards and a touchdown. And then you see Ryan Davis getting involved as well. Another senior, 5 catches, 66 yards. So a few big performances offensively, and all that adds up to 44 points on the day. Just another really, really efficient game for this Utah offense that is completely different than anything we've ever seen for Utah, at least, right?
Yeah.
Efficient as well on 3rd down, 7 of 14, 2 of 3 on 4th down. Really efficient in the red zone as well. I think the only mistake was a missed PAT, but it was just another really, really good day from these guys in red.
Yeah, and I didn't have Devin Dampier throwing it 31 times tonight. I thought Utah was going to stay true to what they do, and that's running the football. And credit to Nebraska, who I thought at times did a good job containing the run. They didn't really allow too many explosive big runs, as we've seen Wayshawn Parker do all season, as we've seen guys like Bert Ficklin do all season. They mostly kept Bert Ficklin in check, so credit to them. They mostly kept Wayshawn Parker in check, credit to them. But Devin Dampier did have a couple of big runs, including a 43-yard rush to finish with 148 yards. But still, Devin Dampier throwing it 31 times. That one took me by surprise a little bit.
Interesting enough, so he throws it 31 times. They only had 5 players register a catch. So I don't know who else was targeted on those 31 attempts, right? But this was kind of the story all season, and I'd say it's the biggest knock on Utah's offense was that the passing game was always inconsistent. And, we've got a little fun text thread that we get going during the games, right? And Dampier had that big throw early on in the game. I think it was his longest throw of the night. And you text, you're like, yeah, Devin Dampier hit a big pass. And even that ball, dude, was severely underthrown.
Yeah.
And there were times this season where he connects on those, and there were times where he really missed. But the passing game, I think they really struggle to find a consistent contributor. I know Ryan Davis at one point was top 1 or 2 in the conference in catches. And outside of him, Dallin Bentley flashed, JJ Buchanan flashed, but I don't know if it was Devin Dampier's ankle limiting how well he could throw the ball. It's just the passing game was never really able to find consistency. And today, Devin Dampier throws for 310 yards. Again, only to 5 different receivers, but this is the best version of what Jason Beck's offense can look like, at least with Devin Dampier at the helm.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to the Baylor game where they went down to Waco and Utah came out and the offense was a little bit flat, and they were trying to favor the passing game. They were trying to force the ball downfield through the air. Passes weren't connecting. Players were dropping balls. Like the Utah wasn't able to move the ball in the first quarter against Baylor because they were favoring the option to pass the ball. And in this one, it seemed like Utah early on wanted to come out and pass the ball, but it was different this time because Utah was actually making those big plays and making those passes and being able to push the ball downfield through the air. And then, of course, I can't remember if it was the first or second drive. It was probably the first, but Dallin Bentley goes up, has that 45-yard pass. The one that you're talking about, that was a little bit overthrown, but he still makes the play, brings it down. It's complete. And I think that sets the tone really for Utah's passing offense throughout the course of the entire game, right? If that one falls incomplete, I don't know if we see as much success, but I think that one really gave confidence to not only Devin Dampier, but just Dallin Bentley, who ended up having a phenomenal game. And you're able to see Utah find some success through the air.
Yeah, that's why you gotta take the shots, right? Because if you don't connect on those plays, your passing game's not a threat to the other team. And when you do connect on them, they've got to respect it. And we never really saw a true deep threat emerge. I know they had Jackson Benny trying some deep routes at some times, and then he got banged up. But when you've got tight ends that are really long and physical and willing to go out there and get them, take those shots, man, because that's exactly what it does. It sets up the running game. It sets up the rest of your passing game. So credit to Devin Dampier tonight. It makes me wonder what things would have looked like if he was healthy all year. Kyle Whittingham brought up several times, like, yeah, Devin Dampier's ankle was really bad all year. And at first I was pretty skeptical of it, but after seeing his performance tonight and what he was able to do on the ground and through the air, I honestly am like, man, what if, right? So
yeah,
what a game for Devin Dampier. He won MVP of the game, right? I didn't really see
by far.
Yeah.
By far Devin Dampier's your MVP. And I think you have to give shouts to JJ Buchanan too, man. The true freshman made some phenomenal plays downfield, made some incredible catches, did have the offensive PI, but whatever, we'll forgive him because he comes back, right, man, and has the touchdown earlier in the game. But whatever you got to do to keep JJ Buchanan at Utah, man, I think that Utah team has to do it. He's one of those guys, one of those core pieces that I think Utah needs heading into next season. And JJ Buchanan, I think, has a really high ceiling, has a lot of real potential as that wide receiver tight end hybrid. He was phenomenal tonight, and again, I think Utah has to do everything they can to keep JJ Buchanan.
That's scary, man. Yeah, I kind of talked about it a little bit before. That's one of the guys that if Beck does go to Michigan, I think Buchanan's going to be one of those guys that he's like, yeah, I want him to come with. And who knows what he would be like in the Big Ten, at Michigan. It is, I mean, looking at Michigan's schedule next year, they play an incredibly tough slate of teams. They play Oregon, they play Ohio State. They got a couple of other really, really tough Big Ten.
I believe they play Indiana. I know they have an out of conference game against Oklahoma.
Yeah, there you go. Those are the four tough ones. I was looking at their schedule today. So it's like, how good of a contributor can JJ Buchanan be against teams like that, versus playing at Utah? But regardless, he's a special talent, and I would hope that Utah can hold on to him, because whoever's at quarterback next year, whether it's Bird Ficklin or Devin Dampier or somebody else, tight end is a man's best friend at QB, especially here at Utah, as we've seen over the past several years. And I think Buchanan has the potential to be a really special tight end.
Absolutely. And I mean, you look at just the performance from Dallin Bentley, you're going to need somebody like that for next season. You're going to need somebody to step up and to kind of take over that role, because Dallin Bentley, he after Ryan Davis went down, he kind of became the go-to target, and he became Mr. Reliable. And so you're going to need somebody who you can count on at the tight end position, who's phenomenal at catching the ball the way Dallin Bentley is. And I think JJ Buchanan, JJ Buchanan fits that mold perfectly.
Another thing to hit on for the offense today, no interceptions for Devin Dampier. Really almost a flawless game, right? Really, really complete game. No turnovers from him or the offense at all. The defense does get the one takeaway, the late interception. That was Rock Caldwell pulling that one down. So winning the turnover battle 1-0, that's what Utah likes, right? Winning the turnover battle, controlling the time of possession, all those cliches, and Utah was able to do it today. But with Devin Dampier, with him throwing the ball 31 times, not putting it in harm's way, I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't think there were really any plays where it was like, oh,
there was one scary one.
And it hit the linebacker in the hands.
Yeah. I want to say that was in the third quarter.
Yeah, I think it was early fourth.
Yeah, but that was really the only situation where I got kind of worried there. But I mean, ultimately, just all in all, I remember, you head to the preseason, Christian, and you hear all the talk about the 12 and 12, right? You hear all the talk about, well, he only threw 12 touchdowns, but at the same time, he threw 12 interceptions. And what was Devin Dampier and how his game was going to translate to the Power Four, and on all that noise, right? All that criticism of this guy from New Mexico making the jump over to Utah. Finishes the season. I think this isn't updated yet, but heading into this bowl game, it's 22-5. Plus, you add another 2 touchdowns to that today. Devin Dampier, just the 5 interceptions alone, that his game translated as well as I think anybody could have wanted and anybody could have expected from Devin Dampier. And I think finally you can put the 12-12 talk to rest and see where Devin Dampier continues to develop through this offseason.
Yeah, one more year, man. And whether it's here or somewhere else, I think you're right. He's done a great job proving that he can make the jump to power conference football. So whether it's in the Big 12 or somewhere else, what a way to finish the season. I mean, again, like literally the best game of his career, nearly 500 total yards of offense just from Dampier himself. So great job by him. Wayshawn Parker, I do want to talk about him a little bit. Didn't really see the explosiveness. You brought that up earlier. That we had seen from him throughout the season. I think what was his, I'm trying to bring up his average yards per carry. It was something absolutely stupid, like 7 yards per carry coming into this game. Nebraska held him to 50 yards on 16 carries. That's 3.1 yards per. There were a couple, I think the one where he fumbled the pitch and they lost like 10 yards on it.
Oh, yeah.
That dings his rushing total, I would imagine, on the stat sheet. So things like that, a couple miscues where his rushing numbers weren't as high as they should have been. But I thought we'd see a bigger game from Wayshawn Parker. But obviously, when you've got Devin Dampier doing everything that he's doing, doesn't leave a whole lot of room for guys like Wayshawn Parker to contribute.
No, but I think even then, Wayshawn Parker did enough to show up in big moments. There was the play. It was a 3rd and long. Dampier was scrambling. He rolls out to his right, kind of gives direction to Wayshawn, and he makes a phenomenal catch, right? Like this is a catch that you see wide receivers make where they're toe tapping it in. The situational awareness of making sure that your toes are in bounds when you make that catch, you get the first down for Utah. There was moments like that I think where I thought he was big, but ultimately I think because of the work Devin Dampier did, both in the rushing and in the passing game, you didn't necessarily have to rely on Wayshawn Parker as much as you have in the past couple games, but it was disappointing. I wanted to see him break just one, one, so he can continue to add on to what to the incredible season that he's had. But ultimately, I think overall he had a good enough performance.
Well, and he was close to 1,000 yards. I don't think he hit that. I think he's going to be just barely short, like literally just barely short. But that's another guy that you're hoping stays when that portal opens, man. It's such an unknown on who's going to stay and who's going to go because these guys were kind of brought in by Jason Beck, and of course nothing's official. I want to reiterate that we have really no announcement by anybody. It's just all rumors at this point, with Jason Beck potentially going to Michigan to join Kyle Whittingham. And of course it would make sense, but yeah, if Jason Beck does go, he's going to want to bring in some of these guys that had great seasons for him. And that includes Buchanan, that includes Wayshawn Parker. So we'll see, man. But if Wayshawn Parker does return, I think that's because he was a sophomore this year. So that's a potential NFL guy, I think. I don't know if he would leave after his 3rd year. I mean, it would obviously depend on how great of a season he has next year, but I think he was special this year, and he had several 100-yard performances. of course, kind of the running game being the focal point of this offense. That's what Utah needs, and that's definitely going to help out Morgan Scalley next year and whoever the offensive coordinator is. Wayshawn Parker, I think, is going to be a special talent next year. So they got to do – he's one of those guys. They got to do what they can to hold on to him.
Absolutely. And in this game, obviously, there's no Caleb Lomu and there's no Spencer Fano. So the offensive line's a little bit different. But regardless, I still think that in moments where he did get handoffs and he did get carries, he did a great job of running in between the tackles like he normally does. Sometimes when he bounced it out, there wasn't I don't want to say it was bad blocking, but there was moments where the blocking probably could have been better. But I mean, that's what you come to expect when you're turning over both tackles, and I think that probably could have helped Wayshawn have a bigger game. But ultimately, with the opportunities he did have, I thought he did phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it's not like the blocking was bad, but as you're bringing up, like it's a lot different going.
It's just the adjustment.
First round picks at offensive
exactly
tackle versus the next guy's up, and they're fine offensive linemen. I know they do a great job of developing those guys, but we're talking two of the best offensive tackles in the entire country. So that is going to make a big difference, even if you've been practicing with these guys for a number of weeks. But it's a bit of a drop off on the offensive line play there.
Which again, in that same sense, got to give them credit. Got to give them massive credit because I thought in moments they did a lot of great things. I thought the pass blocking, the pass protection was exceptionally well for Devin Napier. He seemed like he had all the time in the world to get his passes off and to really get that offense going. And so I do want to give credit to the guys who had to step in for first rounders. It's not an easy task to do. It's not an easy thing to do to come in. There's obviously going to be a little bit of adjustment there as as you head into next season, as you go through spring ball, as you go through fall camp. But I think just in what we saw today from the tackle positions, I thought they did a phenomenal job, and of course that's another reason why Utah fans should be excited for what's to come.
Yeah, and especially setting up a couple of those touchdown passes from Dampier. I mean, because again he's short, right? So you gotta block a certain way. But there were a few plays where I can't remember which touchdown pass it was because he had so many, right? But it's almost like the seas parted and you see him. Just a very clean pocket, no pressure at all. And he just delivers a strike right across the middle. And that makes it easy, right?
Yeah. Anything and everything to make sure that your quarterback is in a good spot to make those plays. Again, it's going to be an adjustment. But I think what they showed and what we saw from them through their first start, I believe this is for both of them. They showed well. And they're still young guys. It'll take time for that adjustment to come, but they did a good job to keep Dampier upright.
Did you see the final score of the Michigan game?
I did not know.
41-27 for Texas.
Ooh, not a great start there for Michigan.
You think it's too late for Witt to change his mind?
No, probably not. That ship might have already sailed. But, I think for Michigan, there's you got to go through and you got to clean up whatever the mess is as far as like the scandals go and everything from the Harbaugh era, whether the sign stealing, the assistant hacking into student emails or whatever. And I think Witt's got his hands full with that. But I think once they can overcome that, they'll be fine.
Bryce Underwood really struggled. 23 of 42, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions on the day. Again, he is a true freshman, but that is I only bring that up because that is something that could directly affect Utah, right? His decision on whether he stays or goes could really influence on what Devin Dampier does. And even if Bryce Underwood stays at Michigan, there still is a chance that Dampier enters the portal and goes elsewhere. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. January 2nd. Do you know what time it opens?
Oh, no,
I'm not sure. A time, but January 2nd, Friday.
January 2nd, Whittingham goes on the ABC broadcast and says he'll have 90% of his coaching staff announced by the weekend.
Oh, he said that?
He said that. He said 90% of the coaching staff will be announced by the weekend on ABC's broadcast of that game, the Michigan Texas game. And so,
interesting.
Again, we're waiting for the shoe to fall, waiting for the news to come to see who and what happens. But again, I think more so than just the coaching staffs. I think Utah's got to do everything they can to make sure Devin Dampier returns for next season. Wayshawn Parker, JJ Buchanan. Lance Holtzclaw.
John Henry Daly, if you can, man. I know he's entering the portal, but you can bring him back.
You could, yeah. You could still make a
You
late
could lure
push.
him back out.
Absolutely. They're just because, and that brings up a good point. Just because they're in the portal doesn't mean they're going to stay in the portal, right?
Isaac Wilson did it.
Isaac Wilson came back last season, and so just because, which by the way, he's back in the portal. Just because they're in the portal doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to leave, right? Utah can still make a push to recruit their own guys, and I anticipate Morgan Scalley to do a lot of that in the coming days and in the coming weeks to make sure that you are able to keep the core pieces of what made this team so successful this season.
Yeah, I do wonder if, and it's not, I'm not acting like I'm the only person who's thought this ever, but I do wonder if Whittingham was giving Jason Beck this time to prepare for this game. Just because, Whit doesn't want to leave this program in a bad spot, even if it is just the Las Vegas Bowl or whatever, it's motorcycle, but he doesn't want to have bad blood with this program. And especially if he's going to bring Beck to Michigan, right? You don't want to, I guess, ruin the Las Vegas Bowl for this program that Kyle Whittingham has spent 21 years with by poaching their offensive coordinator right before the bowl game. So I do wonder if Whit was kind of waiting for the game to be over to make that decision or announcement because it sounds like he's been telling the players that.
Yeah, and he's been telling the players that, and we also had a couple of media guys from Michigan jump on. Yeah. So they jumped on the special coverage show that we did on last Friday when the news broke, and the whole station came in to help out with that. We had a Michigan writer jump on, and he essentially said the same thing that we had the guy on Monday who jumped on Jaden Alex say that essentially Whittingham is waiting for the bowl games to finish out of respect for the coaching staff that's already in place at Michigan and the coaching staffs of the people he wants to target. So yes, to your point, yes, it is because of the bowl games. It's because he wanted the focus to be on the games and the players and not necessarily the coaching drama that, again, we're just anticipating to see here in the next couple of days.
What a complete 180 from the coaches that have been at Michigan, right?
Right.
Finally get a good guy there.
They need it, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. I saw a screenshot right on the ABC broadcast. Somebody posted out there on Twitter. It was Kyle Whittingham. When the camera panned to him at the Michigan game, and it was like, oh, look, a coach who's not on his phone DMing other people, DMing girls, right? And so the Michigan fans are extremely excited for Whittingham because they know no scandals, nothing of that nature, and they need it right now.
Yeah, no BS, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's the type of man he is.
Yeah. We are still waiting for Coach's Sound to wrap up. Really want to hear from Morgan Scalley, his first post-game presser ever as the head coach at the University of Utah. Sounds like they are either at the podium or just wrapping up. So we're going to take a break and then get to that in the next segment at some point. While you wait, leave a comment in the comments section. Want to get some listener reaction, and then while we wait for Scalley and the players to wrap. So if you have anything to say about this game or about Morgan Scalley or about Kyle Whittingham, let us know your thoughts in the comments section. We're on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. But until then, quick 3-minute break, and then we'll be right back. You're listening to the Ute Post Game Show, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
This is the Ute Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's the Ute Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me, breaking down Utah's 44-22 win over Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. Alex, we are right about to play Morgan Scalley's postgame presser, but a little spoiler alert. I've got a quote I want to hit. Ooh. Morgan Scalley says, the Utah logo is the only logo he's ever worn and the only logo he will ever wear. I love it.
There you go, man. So in 21 years, when it's time for, after 21 years of Morgan Scalley, when it's time for him to contemplate retirement, you don't have to worry about him going to Michigan because he's only going to wear the Utah logo.
Yeah, and I hope he lasts 21 years. That would be that'd be quite the accomplishment.
I think it would.
Getting to some comments in the YouTube, Dwayne9166 chiming in. Just think, now that Coach Witt is at Michigan, if Utah is in the playoff next year, the Big Ten will probably invite us to join it. Yeah, maybe.
I think Utah's in a good spot. I don't know what the future of college football holds or what it looks like, or what the power two future looks like, but I think Utah has definitely earned a spot at the table as far as because of the consistency that they've had in the Pac-12 era, and because of the consistency now that we can potentially hope to see under Morgan Scalley. I think it comes with winning a couple of winning one at the minimum of a Big 12 championship before you can think about the Big 10, but I think Utah's in a good spot to compete.
I totally agree. Don't worry about the conference you're not in. Focus on the Big 12. Got to win the Big 12 title first.
Yeah, there you go.
That is one thing I'll miss about Kyle Whittingham was his looks into the future and all those quotes he would give us. Right?
You know what, man? He was pretty spot on.
He really was.
He was pretty spot on with all those quotes.
His famous one being something to the tune of it won't be long until the top 10 teams in college football reflect the top 10 highest spenders.
Yep.
And it certainly is trending that direction. Definitely in the Big 12, it's looking like that, right? With Texas Tech and BYU at the top. And we'll see what that looks like next year with even larger contributions from, BYU's donors and things like that. And everybody's just going to be paying more and more money. But you're right. You alluded to the two super conferences that Kyle Whittingham has kind of spoken about. And he thinks probably in 2030 something, that's what college football is trending to. And eventually you're going to have to be a have or a have not. And the haves are going to be in these super conferences and the have nots are going to be left out. And, regardless if Utah ever wins the Big 12 championship or not, I think consistently having double-digit win seasons is going to get them a spot at the table. I think they've earned that reputation. And of course you want to compete for Big 12 championships, but there's some really good teams in this conference. So
there are.
We'll see. That is, I think, again, off of the reputation that Kyle Whittingham built up and that Utah football carries, I think that is the expectation, though, and nothing less. Unless your starting quarterback, is out for the season and you're waiting on him to come back and you've got a walk-on pig farmer playing at quarterback, right? Like you should always be competing for a Big 12 championship at Utah.
I 100% agree. And I think, like we've talked about in the past, man, I think Morgan Scalley's in a good position to just build upon what's already been laid down by Kyle Whittingham. He was obviously his mentor. They've been together for a really long time now. And so he knows what the program's about. He knows what the foundation is. And I'm sure he'll have similar, if not the same values as far as building the program and building that reputation. And it's going to come down to double-digit wins, seasons. It's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to positioning yourself to be in a spot where you're not only fighting for a chance at a Big 12 championship game in Arlington, but you're also fighting for a chance in the college football playoff, as Utah was this season. If you can consistently do that, whatever the future looks like for college football, if Morgan Scalley can continue to knock off double-digit win seasons and can continue to put this team in a position where they are fighting for those spots, the championship and the playoff, there's no doubt that in my mind that Utah can potentially have their spot at the table when it's all said and done, when the Power Four becomes the Power Two and the super conferences come around.
And again, I mean, you bring up it's not going to be easy, right? Morgan Scalley has to put in the work, but the foundation is there.
Yeah.
So now Scalley's just got to prove himself as the coach.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Utah, man, I think next year you can continue to build off the success that Kyle Whittingham has left. But I think the big question for me, man, is how does the program look like in 3 years? How does it look like in 4 years? Once the foundations of what Kyle Whittingham, I mean, they're there, but it's now Morgan Scalley's, right? And it's his team, it's his recruiting classes, and it's his, stuff of that nature, right? How does the program look like in 3 and 4 years when it is now fully time for that transition to be, this is Morgan Scalley's program? Can it still be at that same level? Will it still be at that same level? And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for Morgan in the first couple of years, man, is just making the program his and making sure that as the transition becomes to making the program his, you're still in those positions to compete for those spots.
Yeah, and that is the big challenge, is being Morgan Scalley and not Kyle Whittingham's successor. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
don't try and be Kyle Whittingham. Be Morgan Scalley.
You don't want to be you usually don't want to be the guy that follows the guy, right?
Yeah, but he said so himself.
Or yeah, he said it so himself. But I think in this case, he has the unique opportunity of making it his quickly. So again, I'm just curious to see what that program looks like in 3 to 4 years.
Well, let's get to the podium and hear from the man himself. Sounds like Morgan Scalley, Devin Dampier, and Lander Barton were all at the podium together, so you'll get to hear from all three of them as they take questions. But this is Morgan Scalley's first official post-game presser as the head coach of the Utah Utes.
All right, go Utes. Man, this bowl experience has been awesome. Vegas has always been good to us. The bowl committee, John Cicenti, Kent Gardner from SRS Distribution, just making this really a special week for our players. You know, there's a reason you want to get to a bowl game, and it's to get the goods, to get some good stuff and the gifts. They took care of our players, and so much gratitude to them, Virgin Hotel, who hosted us. And, really, I would say the biggest thing I want to emphasize is there have been so many distractions for these players. And the game is all about them. And so they're the ones that don't deserve all the distractions, right? And they worked their tails off. This is the fourth season in University of Utah football history where we've had 11 wins, and that is amazing considering the history. So credit goes to the seniors, the leadership of this football team. So grateful that they held it together, So, and it was the players really holding it together. I was swimming, trying to keep my head above water with the new assignment as a head football coach. And so I'm so grateful for them, and grateful for our president Taylor Randall, our athletic director Mark Harlan for their support and throughout this experience. Grateful for Kyle Whittingham, my mentor, and what an amazing coach, and what he's done for this program, what he's done for me personally. I can't thank him enough, and wish him well on his journey at the University of Michigan. But this is about our players, and I've not looked at the stats, but I know you did amazing. Spider-Man, and this guy had a birthday yesterday, and he's now an uncle again, right, with a baby boy. So with that, go Utes. We're so fired up.
Got mics on both sides. Just flag down Mark and myself. We'll get a mic to you before you ask your question.
Morgan, obviously you mentioned that it's just been a crazy whirlwind week. At the luncheon yesterday, you said you've been taking 5-hour energy. Just walk me through just the emotions of this week with so much happening. How have you kind of kept it all together just as the head coach in your first week? And then for Devin and Lander, just what does it look like behind the scenes with Morgan leading up to this game and obviously winning it?
I think it would have been a lot harder had we not had a great culture already established. With players really understanding their role in leading. So There's a lot to being a head football coach, particularly at a time when the portal's about to open and you've got things going on left and right. But like I said, these guys kept it all together. And it'd be very easy for people to start turning and what about me, what about mine, and to lose focus. And so can't say enough about our players.
Yeah, man, I think the way Scally came in just right away when we all sat down and he got up there, he went up there with confidence. And as players, things get a little changed. You don't know what's really going to happen when you're getting led by someone with confidence in himself and also in the program and us players. I think it just lifted us up from the jump. And just throughout this trip, he's allowed us to have both, the fun of enjoying each other. There's a lot of love for this team that we've created. We've bonded since the beginning. So just for him to allow us to have that time together. And then also when we got to business, man, we hit it hard. The practices were hard. And, man, we're just grateful for it all. Grateful for Coach Scally, the way he handled everything. And that's kind of what kept us together.
Yeah, I mean, this week I really never felt like the team was ever really distracted by what was going on around us. I mean, it made it easy, too, because it's a good group of guys that they're bought into the culture, and we're all here for one reason, that's to win a game. And, I mean, Coach Scally preached every single day, every single team meeting that we had. It was just stay focused on the goal. I mean, we have our time to have fun, like Devin said, and there's time to work. And, I mean, I'm just happy to be a part of this team and a part of Coach Scally's first win.
Oh, man.
That was actually the question I was going to go with, but I got to back up, so I'm good. We got to see a little bit of that emotion come out there at the end when you're holding up the trophy. For the players, what does that mean to see that? For Coach Lander, you've been playing for Morgan for quite some time. And Morgan, what's going through your head? What are some of those instant things you're thinking about when you're having that emotion up there on the stage after your first win?
I mean, it was good to see. I mean, Coach, sometimes he'll cry a little bit sometimes. He's not afraid to cry. I mean, I'm working on it. But I mean, he doesn't hide his feelings. He doesn't mask it. I mean, I think it takes a very brave and strong man to cry in front of others. And I mean, that's the type of man Coach Scally is. And I mean, that's the type of man I want to be someday. I mean, he leads by example.
Yeah, I am who I am. And I'm just, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I grew up a Utah man. My dad played at the University of Utah. I had family play at the University of Utah. Go to the University of Utah. And I grew up, running around in those tunnels at Rice Stadium when it wasn't Rice Eccles Stadium, and he had the black top, and I was, let me wear my Little League jersey just to get into the game for free, and I've seen it transition. I've been there through all of it, and I've never, my dream has always been to take it to the highest level. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for is that my logo has never changed, nor will it. And and then add to that my family, what they sacrifice. My daughter's poor Emma, she's got the flu, and so it was kind of dealing with that too. But just it takes a family to sacrifice a lot for me to be, who I am. And if I'm not a great father, I will never be a great coach, so I just appreciate my family.
Devin, you were wearing the big Utah chain after the game. What does the next 48 hours look for you with the transfer portal opening?
It's all about this game. That's what it's been about. These are like final hours with my seniors. I've been elected to be in the leadership since the beginning. Was able to earn captain this game. So, they demonstrated leadership to the max. I'm so grateful that just the way I was raised, I take my relationships very valuable and very serious. So, it's the last couple hours I get to hang out with those guys. So that's where my mind's going to be at for sure.
Coach Scally, you've been coaching in this program for 2 decades, but obviously tonight was different as you coached your first head coaching game. When did that really settle in for you that this was your job, your program now?
I don't think it has settled in at all yet. Probably a lot of mistakes, being on the offensive side when I'm supposed to be on the defensive side. we were trying to get Wayshawn 1,000 yards there at the end, which is why we kept him on the field. There was no disrespect whatsoever towards Nebraska, and I told Matt that, and what a class guy, completely respect Nebraska, and so, but yeah, it's been so crazy. I don't know that I've been really able to process it or think about it, and it will come, but I'm confident of the future.
Morgan, obviously, I kind of just want to go back to the moment where you found out that you were going to be coaching as the head coach in this game, as not defensive coordinator. Where were you? How did you address it with the team? And just getting your first win, I mean, what are the emotions? How are you feeling just being on the sideline, being the leader, and not, as a defensive coordinator? Just walk me through all of that. I know that's a loaded question.
Well, I honestly can't remember. I don't know where I was. Dead serious. It's just kind of crazy. But I've been through change. Been through Ron McBride, being fired, and Urban taking off and going to Florida. And it takes a strong culture to withstand change, right? And so, that's the one thing about this place that is special in an environment in this day and age of college football where everyone's telling these young men to get theirs, and teams will continue to win championships, not individuals. And so it's always going to be about the team at the University of Utah. Change is going to happen. That's just the environment we're in college football. But your culture has to be strong enough to withstand it.
Hey, Coach. Congrats on the first win.
Thank you.
Just kind of going to go off the question Devin kind of answered. What do the next 48 hours for you sort of look like? You mentioned the transfer portal opening. So much focus going into this game, obviously. How do you kind of flip a switch here?
Well, my number one goal is making sure that our guys make it home for curfew tonight in Las Vegas. That's number one. So beyond that, that's a we'll work after that. But this is a big time profession, and if people don't think that we've already been planning, already been looking for the next step, then they don't know us. So we will be prepared for whatever is to come, and we are excited for those that want to be Utes. And bottom line is, we hope all these guys in that locker room continue to be here.
Morgan and Lander, the beginning of that game obviously didn't go very well defensively. They were getting kind of what they wanted to. What changed and allowed you guys, I think it was 5 straight 3-and-outs that you forced, and then really just kind of own that game? What kind of changed in your guys' perspective?
We can watch the film on the sidelines after every single series. I mean, in those first couple series, there's mistakes made on almost every single play where they were able to make big gains. So, I mean, we were kind of just settling in and just had to play fundamental and technique football. I mean, that's all it is. A lot of big plays happen when things start to break down. So you just got to get back to doing your job, and every single person needs to do that on the field. And once we started doing that, you saw the result of it. I mean, we just had to settle in and adjust a little bit.
Yeah, just gap scheme issues, not fitting counter properly, missing a tackle here or there. But for the most part, it was run fit defense. And we shored that up, and you saw the result.
To all of you, congratulations on the win. Coach, now 1-0 as a head coach. What do you want the Morgan Scally era of Utah football to look like? And for the players, same to you. What do you think this win means for the future of the program?
This program will always be bigger than one person, and it will continue to be Utah football, and not the Morgan Scally. This is the culture. It's all about the players. It's all about the team. I'm grateful to be in a position where I can help lead. At the same time, you're only as good as your players, and you'll never outperform the leadership that's provided by them. So, but again, blessed to be in this position, to have people trust and believe in me. But it's all about the players.
Yeah, man, Coach Scally, he's a big believer in hard work. So I can't imagine Utah going any way. That's not that. We we're tough-minded. We stay together, so I know that's going to come with it for sure. And I think the difference you're going to see, I honestly, the energy, it has been different, no doubt. The amount of smiles on people's faces, and that just brings that extra juice. So I can imagine, running out that tunnel, people are going to be hyped.
I mean, after tonight, I'll be watching from the TV to see what this program does. But I mean, I know great things are in store. I mean, the culture's strong, and it's not going to dwindle at all. It's just going to build from here. And I mean, I'm excited to watch this program win some rings. Oh man,
aren't we all, Lander? That was Lander Barton, Devin Dampier, and Morgan Scally taking the podium after winning the Las Vegas Bowl 44-22 over Nebraska. A couple big takeaways there. One quote I really liked from Morgan Scally, he was asked about what he wants his program to look like during the Morgan Scally era. He said, "This program will always be bigger than any one person." Love that mentality, love that mindset. And that's kind of what Utah football has to live with, because as you mentioned earlier, Alex, Utah's never going to get, the highest rated recruits in the class. Yeah. They're not really going to get these superstar players. Utah's brand is built off of being hard workers and, teamwork. And looks like Morgan Scally is going to continue that.
Absolutely. Whittingham has built a program on kind of that blue collar mentality, the hard work mentality, the everybody on this team loves each other mentality. And I think Morgan Scally being someone who worked under Whittingham for so long, being someone who basically got mentored by Whittingham and learned a lot of his coaching style under Kyle Whittingham. I'm sure that's something that will stick with this Utah program. Give him credit though; they have done better in the recruiting trail in bringing in guys who are more highly rated. In the more recent seasons, specifically looking at Celeste Moa in the latest recruiting class, but it's always going to be about the guys who come in and work hard and get to where. I mean, you heard the story about Dylan Bentley during the broadcast, dealing through some injuries, right? Not necessarily the first name on the depth chart, and Jason Beck didn't really have a spot for him on the offense coming into the spring camp. But he worked hard, made his own jump, and then look at the season Dylan Bentley had. Those are the type of players that Utah thrives on. And I'm sure that won't change under Morgan Scally.
All right, let's wrap this baby up as we always do. And of course, wrapping the season up for Utah football. What a year it has been. And then Morgan Scally starts off 1-0, but the Utes finish the season 11-2. Alex, offensive and defensive MVPs for this game, for the Las Vegas Bowl.
For the Las Vegas Bowl, offense is Devin Dampier, no doubt.
Easy.
Ooh, the defense one's tricky. I'm gonna have to give it to Lance Holtzclaw, who I thought stepped in, looked phenomenal at times during the early goings. I thought that there was times where it looked like he I don't know if it was just a missed assignment. I don't know if it was just him going into the wrong gap or what the situation was, but he looked a little bit lost in those first two drives from Nebraska. But again, him, like the rest of the defense, able to shore things up. And then, of course, Lance Holtzclaw has what I thought was a phenomenal game, coming in and stepping in for a guy like Logan Fano, who of course, has been extremely successful for Utah.
Yeah, a sack and a TFL for Holtzclaw tonight. I definitely agree. Now, season awards, offensive and defensive MVP.
Offensive, I think I'm going to have to stick with Devin, man. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Devin. Devin Dampier again. We talked about it earlier. The 12-12 was the talk in the preseason, right? Was that going to translate to the Power 4 level? Was the success going to transfer to the Power 4 level? And obviously we see that it does. Not necessarily, the biggest numbers through the air, but I think he did phenomenally enough to get Utah to where they needed to be. And he's a great leader for this offense. And so Devin Dampier, offensive MVP.
Yeah, he led one of the most prolific Utah offenses that we have seen in some time. I mean, again, I mentioned this earlier, in Big 12 play, they were consistently putting up 40, even 50 points. Like, that used to be a big deal. Now it's just another Saturday, right? So
just another day's work.
Yeah, that's all credit to Devin Dampier, man. And then again, 44 points tonight and finishing with the best game of his Utah career by far. Hopefully he returns so we can add many more to that. Defensive MVP, I think it's also pretty easy. I'd go John Henry Daly.
Oh,
You agree?
Oh, I was gonna go Jackson Benny, man.
Okay.
I was gonna go
He
Jackson
had,
Benny.
was it 2 pick sixes?
2 pick sixes. I think has 4 interceptions total on the year. A lot of passes deflected. Still just a sophomore. I think he's been the revelation on the defense this season. I know, and you're absolutely right. Like it could go John Henry Daly because before he got injured, John Henry Daly was absolutely phenomenal. But I'm gonna go Jackson Benny.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was almost a weapon on offense.
Yeah,
They tried
I know.
to use him.
So close. So close.
Hopefully they're done with that. That's one thing I don't want to see next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think, there was times and there was moments where Smith Snowden did some good things, especially in the early goings of the season, right? I think during UCLA was probably his best game, and then Lander Barn had some okay catches, and then Jackson Benny, they tried to make him a deep threat, didn't necessarily work out. Had the big one against Texas Tech that unfortunately gets called back.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I think now is the time to go and find those athletes in the transfer portal and find those players in the transfer portal, right? The guys who can come in and kind of be those speedy gadget weapons on offense. But I think guys like Smith, if of course Smith decides to come back, and then same thing with Jackson Benny, like if those guys come back, they specialize on defense and do everything they can to make that defense great.
All right, that does it for our final post-game show of the college football season. Alex, it's been so much fun doing this with you for Utah and BYU. So it's bittersweet. It was a long season, but it's going to be weird having not having post-game shows on Saturdays. It's been really fun. I want to thank you for doing this with me every week. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in for the shows and stuck with us as we are learning this and getting better every single week. I certainly hope so. So again, thank you to everybody who's listened. Thanks to Sean. Thanks to Parker. Thanks to Alma for producing at certain times throughout the year. Couldn't have done it without those guys' help. So until next season, I guess we'll see you, right? We don't really know what next season is going to look like for Utah football, but we are going to be there. And then, of course, want to promote KSL Sports, as always. Steve Bartle, our Utah insider, does phenomenal work. He's down there in Vegas right now. So head over to the website and get the best Utah coverage in the state.
And also too, just to plug in, while we are going to be finished with the post-game shows, we'll still be on every Saturday, 10 a.m. on the Saturday show, breaking everything down. And so you can catch me and Christian Esparza there as well.
Yeah, I know Friday we're going to get bombarded with transfer portal news. So join the KSL Sports Zone all day Friday, and then Saturday 10 and noon as well. So thanks, Alex. Thanks, Sean. And thank you for listening. This has been the Ute Post Game Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.